Today, we will be looking at two horrifying caving stories that went horribly wrong. The first story is of an intoxicated couple that ventured into a cave and played with their lives. The second one involves an entrapment within the cave that no explorer wants to face. As always, viewer discretion is advised. January the 1st, year 2000. The final hours of the 20th century were winding down as midnight approached on New Year's Eve in southern Indiana. While most people prepared to celebrate with fireworks and champagne, two individuals arrived at the parking area for King Blair and Queen Blair caves with an entirely different plan for welcoming the new millennium. The man and woman who arrived at the cave parking area around midnight displayed obvious signs of intoxication that immediately concerned local residents familiar with the area. Their slurred speech, unsteady movement, and impaired decision-making created a dangerous combination when paired with their expressed intention to enter the cave system. A local resident who encountered the intoxicated pair recognized the extreme danger of their planned cave expedition. With the wisdom born of familiarity with both the cave system and the risks it poses to unprepared visitors, the resident strongly advised against their underground adventure. Despite the clear warnings from someone who understood both the caves and the risks involved, the intoxicated couple remained determined to proceed with their underground expedition. Fortune appeared to smile on the couple when they encountered another group of cave explorers preparing to explore Queen Blair Cave. The experienced group, perhaps motivated by New Year's Eve goodwill or concern for the obviously impaired pair, made the well-intentioned decision to allow them to tag along on their expedition. This choice, while compassionate, would ultimately enable the disaster that responsible advice had attempted to prevent. The experienced caving group likely believed that their supervision would provide sufficient safety margin for the intoxicated individuals. The initial portion of the cave expedition proceeded with the mixed group exploring the limestone passages of Queen Blair Cave together. The experienced spelunkers followed established routes through the underground system, while the intoxicated couple struggled to maintain pace and orientation in the unfamiliar environment. Their impaired state made every aspect of cave travel more difficult, from basic walking on uneven surfaces to understanding directions and route-finding information. Cave systems like Queen Blair present numerous branching passages, side tunnels, and interconnected chambers that can confuse even sober, experienced explorers. The combination of similar-looking walls, multiple route options, and the disorienting effects of artificial lighting create navigation challenges that demand constant attention and careful mental mapping of the route traveled. For the intoxicated pair, these navigation challenges were compounded by alcohol's effects on memory formation and spatial awareness. Their ability to remember the route taken into the cave was severely compromised, making it virtually impossible for them to retrace their path independently. As the caving expedition progressed deeper into Queen Blair Cave, the experienced group made the decision to begin their exit from the underground system. They had likely reached their planned turnaround time and began the journey back to the surface. However, somewhere in the complex passages of Queen Blair Cave, the couple high on alcohol became separated from their guides. Whether through confusion about directions, inability to keep pace, or simple disorientation in the maze-like passages, they found themselves alone in an environment that demanded clear thinking and navigation skills they no longer possessed. The experienced group of explorers completed their exit from Queen Blair Cave without immediately realizing they had lost their impaired companions. Cave groups often become spread out during exploration, and the assumption that everyone was following the established route may have delayed recognition that the couple was missing. By the time the experienced group reached the surface, the intoxicated pair was already lost somewhere in the underground passages. The realization that two people remained in Queen Blair Cave should have triggered immediate rescue protocols. However, the New Year's Eve timing and the circumstances of the separation may have created confusion about responsibility and appropriate response. Meanwhile, deep within Queen Blair Cave, the intoxicated couple began to experience the terrifying reality of being lost underground. Their impaired navigation abilities made it impossible to retrace their route to the surface, while their diminished judgment prevented them from making rational decisions about conservation of resources or appropriate survival strategies. Hours passed as the couple wandered through the passages, their situation growing more desperate with each failed attempt to find the exit. Their flashlights gradually dimmed as batteries drained, creating the additional stress of approaching darkness in an environment where artificial lighting represents the only barrier against absolute blackness. The couple had brought alcohol with them into the cave, vodka that continued to impair their judgment and decision-making throughout their underground ordeal. Rather than recognizing their need for clear thinking and sobriety to navigate their emergency, they continued drinking, further compromising their already limited ability to solve their predicament rationally. As their water supplies ran low, the couple made the dangerous decision to drink water from the cave itself. Cave water sources can contain harmful bacteria, parasites, and chemical contaminants that pose serious health risks to humans. The environment can concentrate pollutants from surface drainage, while organic contamination from animal waste creates additional biological hazards. Their desperation grew as the hours stretched on and their situation continued to deteriorate. With their flashlight batteries failing and cave water providing questionable hydration, they made an even more dangerous decision that nearly cost them their lives. In an attempt to create warmth and light, they began burning articles of their clothing inside the cave. Fire in confined underground spaces creates deadly hazards that the intoxicated couple failed to recognize or understand. The combustion process consumes oxygen from the already limited cave atmosphere while producing carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and other toxic gases. The burning clothing produced large amounts of smoke that filled the cave passages around their location. This smoke not only reduced visibility to near zero, but also created a toxic atmosphere that threatened to asphyxiate them. The very fire they hoped would provide warmth and comfort was generating the gases that could kill them within minutes. Back at the surface, local residents who were familiar with the area and the intoxicated couple's midnight arrival grew increasingly concerned as morning turned to afternoon on New Year's Day. The truck that had brought the pair to the cave remained in the parking area at noon, 12 hours after their underground adventure had begun. Cave rescue teams assembled quickly to begin searching Queen Blair Cave for the missing couple. These specialized personnel bring extensive training in underground search techniques, emergency medical care, and the psychological challenges of dealing with panicked or incapacitated individuals in confined spaces. The search of Queen Blair Cave required systematic exploration of the passage network to locate the missing individuals. As they ventured deeper, the team spread out in the maze-like tunnels so that they could find the couple as soon as possible by utilizing all their resources efficiently. One team heard muffled voices and the sound of coughs coming from a section that was going down diagonally. Upon close inspection, they could smell burning clothing. All of this indicated that someone was down there. They called out. In return, they received weak responses from the intoxicated couple. The rescue team had now located the couple in that passage within Queen Blair Cave, their condition reflecting the poor decisions and dangerous circumstances of their extended underground ordeal. They were severely dehydrated, having consumed most of their water supply and relied on questionable cave water sources. Their lighting systems were nearly exhausted, leaving them in approaching darkness that would have made their situation even more desperate. Most tellingly, they were almost out of vodka, the substance that had contributed to their poor decision-making from the beginning of their underground adventure. The continued consumption of alcohol throughout their ordeal had prevented any improvement in their judgment or navigation abilities, keeping them trapped in a cycle of poor choices that had nearly proven fatal. The smoke-filled passages around their location told the story of their desperate attempts to create warmth and light through burning clothing. The rescue team immediately recognized the extreme danger the couple had created for themselves through these fires. The toxic atmosphere could have killed them by making them asphyxiated. Their survival was largely a matter of luck rather than good judgment. The emergence of the rescue team and the rescued couple at the surface marked the end of a New Year's Day emergency that had nearly resulted in tragedy. Thanks to the vigilance of local residents who recognized the danger signs and the expertise of cave rescue personnel who responded quickly to their concerns, what could have been a devastating New Year's tragedy was transformed into a story of survival against self-created odds. This next story involves two life-threatening situations that unfolded during a single cave exploration. September 24th, 2005. A fine morning in Sequoia National Park, where 8 researchers prepared for their descent into Empire Mine Cave. Among the group were Shane Fryer, who would lead the expedition, Mindy Goldberg, a 25-year-old explorer, Dave Bunnell, a 53-year-old veteran, and Joel Despain. The diverse team of experts, park rangers, and archaeologists had gathered with a shared mission: to study and photograph the fascinating mine ruins that lay hidden beneath the California wilderness, remnants of the ambitious silver mining operations from the 1870s. The entrance to Empire Mine Cave presents itself as a vertical pit that requires technical rope work to access safely. Unlike horizontal cave entrances that allow cave explorers to simply walk underground, vertical systems demand specialized equipment and techniques for safe descent and ascent. The rigging process involves anchoring rope systems to secure points at the surface, establishing redundant safety measures, and ensuring that all team members understand the descent and emergency procedures. The team prepared their rope systems at the cave entrance, with each member checking and double-checking their equipment configurations. Caving in vertical systems requires harnesses, helmets, headlamps, rappelling devices, and ascending gear that must function flawlessly in the underground environment. Shane took the lead position for the descent, his experience making him the natural choice to test the rope systems and assess conditions in the cave. As an experienced spelunker, he understood the importance of the lead descender carefully evaluating each section of the cave. The rappel down the entrance pit proceeded smoothly for Shane. Following Shane's successful descent, Mindy began her journey into the cave. Her descent down the entrance pit went according to plan, and upon reaching the bottom, she continued past Shane's position to explore a short chimney passage that led deeper into the cave system. Shane stayed at his position as she saw Mindy make her way down the chimney. Chimney passages and caves present unique challenges for cave explorers, requiring specific techniques for safe navigation. These narrow vertical or near vertical passages demand a combination of climbing skills and body positioning that differs significantly from horizontal cave travel. One must use their backs, feet, and hands to maintain contact with opposite walls while moving up or down through the confined space. Dave Bunnell prepared for his descent with the confidence that comes from 53 years of life experience and decades of caving expertise. Dave's initial rappel proceeded without incident. The rope systems functioned exactly as designed, and he reached the bottom of the entrance pit safely. However, his expedition into Empire Mine Cave was about to encounter the unpredictable nature of underground environments, where geological processes that have been stable for decades can shift without warning. As Dave began to climb down the chimney passage where Mindy had preceded him, the rock formations that had remained stable for countless years suddenly shifted. A large rock, loosened by unknown factors, perhaps the vibrations from multiple people passing through the area, changes in temperature, or simply the accumulated stress of time, broke free from its position in the cave wall. The falling rock struck with devastating precision, pinning Dave's cave pack against the wall while simultaneously trapping his leg in the confined space of the chimney. The impact created a terrifying situation where Dave found himself immobilized in the narrow passage, unable to move freely while bearing the weight and pressure of the displaced stone. In caving accidents, entrapment scenarios represent some of the most challenging emergencies, as the confined spaces that make caves fascinating also limit rescue options. Dave's years of caving experience served him well in this critical moment. Rather than panicking, he assessed his situation and began working methodically to free himself from the rock's grip. The process required careful evaluation of how to move without causing additional rockfall or worsening his entrapment. His cave pack, designed to carry essential gear and supplies, had become both a liability in the entrapment and potentially a protective barrier between his body and the crushing weight of the stone. Through a combination of technique, strength, and determination, Dave managed to work himself free from the rock's grip. However, his escape revealed an even more serious problem. The displaced rock had not simply fallen and moved away, but had settled into a new position that effectively blocked the chimney passage. The geological event had transformed the cave's architecture, creating a barrier where none had existed moments before. Below the newly positioned rock, Mindy found herself trapped in the lower section of the chimney. The passage that had allowed her safe descent just minutes earlier had become inaccessible from above. She faced the claustrophobic reality of being cut off from her team members and the cave's exit route, with a massive stone blocking her path to freedom. The sound of the rockfall and Dave's calls for assistance brought immediate response from Joel Despain, who recognized the severity of the situation unfolding below. Cave rescue scenarios demand quick thinking, technical expertise, and careful coordination among team members. The confined spaces and limited access that characterize cave environments can make rescue operations extraordinarily challenging, even with experienced explorers available to assist. Joel's hurried descent into the cave marked the beginning of an improvised rescue operation that would test the skills and determination of all involved. Unlike surface emergencies where professional rescue teams can bring specialized equipment and additional personnel, cave rescues often depend on the resources and expertise immediately available at the scene. The team's collective caving experience became their primary asset in addressing the emergency. The three, Dave, Shane, and Joel, found themselves facing an engineering problem with life-or-death implications. The rock that blocked Mindy's escape route weighed far more than any individual could move, yet it had to be repositioned to create enough space for her to climb to safety. Cave rescue operations often require creative problem-solving and the application of basic physics principles using whatever tools and techniques are available. The three men worked systematically to move the obstructing rock. The process involved careful assessment of leverage points, the application of coordinated force, and constant attention to the risk of additional rockfall that could worsen the situation. The confined space of the chimney passage limited their options for applying mechanical advantage to move the rock. Unlike surface rescue scenarios where heavy equipment and multiple personnel can be brought to bear on similar problems, the cave environment restricted them to human strength, basic tools, and whatever improvised leverage they could create using the cave's natural features. Throughout the rescue operation, communication with Mindy remained essential for coordinating the effort and monitoring her condition. Cave acoustics can make voice communication challenging, and the psychological stress of being trapped in a confined underground space can be overwhelming. Maintaining contact between the trapped person and the rescue team helps prevent panic and provides crucial information about the effectiveness of rescue efforts. The breakthrough came when the three men managed to create just enough space above the rock for Mindy to attempt her escape. The gap they had opened was minimal, barely sufficient for a person to squeeze through. But it represented the difference between continued entrapment and freedom. Mindy's climb up, over, and out of the restricted passage required both physical skill and mental determination. The space the men had created demanded precise body positioning and careful movement to avoid becoming stuck again or causing additional rockfall. Her successful navigation through the gap marked the culmination of the rescue effort and the restoration of the team's ability to exit the cave safely. Even after Mindy's successful escape, the team attempted to reposition the rock to restore the passage to its original configuration. These efforts reflected both their concern for future cave users and their understanding of cave conservation principles. However, the rock's size, weight, and new position in the chimney proved impossible to alter further with the resources available to them. The rockfall at Empire Mine Cave had rewritten the cave's geography in a matter of seconds, creating conditions that would affect all future visitors to the site. With all team members safely reunited and Mindy freed from her underground prison, the expedition focused on their exit from Empire Mine Cave. The emergence of all 8 team members at the surface marked the successful conclusion of an expedition that had nearly ended in tragedy. The archaeological and photographic mission that had brought them to Empire Mine Cave had been overshadowed by the geological drama that unfolded underground, but their primary objective, the safe return of all participants, had been achieved through skill, teamwork, and determination. Thanks to the quick thinking and coordinated rescue efforts of Dave Bunnell, Shane Fryer, and Joel Despain, what could have been a devastating caving tragedy was transformed into a story of successful emergency response.